We begin the day with the anger in Denmark. This week, the U.S. Embassy in Copenhagen removed scores of Danish flags that had been placed in front of the building. The flags were meant to honor Danish soldiers killed during the NATO mission to Afghanistan. A member of the embassy's staff was filmed taking flags down on Wednesday morning. And the flags had been put there after U.S. President Trump said last week that soldiers from non-U.S. NATO countries had, quote, stayed a little back from the fighting in Afghanistan. A spokesperson for the embassy said that there was no ill intent in taking the flags down, but politicians and veterans representatives, they've condemned the move. Well, I'm joined now by journalist Jakob Illeborg in Copenhagen. Jakob, it's good to have you with us. I know you've been following this story. Tell us exactly what happened at the U.S. Embassy this week.
Well, extraordinary scenes in many ways. As you say, the Americans say there was no ill intent, but they did take the flags down. What happened then was that Danes, ordinary Danes, the following day, came by the embassy and started planting new flags. And instead of the 44 flags there originally to commemorate the fallen Danish soldiers, suddenly there were hundreds of flags. And it became a viral story. It became a story that everybody had to comment upon, and they have. And there's been a lot of anger and a lot of frustration, I think, if you will, about the insensitivity of the Americans in this term.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at the images, it doesn't look like the flags were a nuisance or bothering anyone. How is the U.S. Embassy explaining its decision to remove the flags?
Well, as you said before, they're basically saying that there was no ill intent, that maybe some security guy removed it overnight, and they have now allowed the flags to remain there. But even before the flags were removed, Danish veterans, unhappy with Trump's rhetoric, has said that they were going to make a demonstration. They called it a manifestation in front of the embassy this Saturday. So there was already, if you will, frustration and some bad blood. And of course, removing the flags didn't help at all. So the feeling right now in Copenhagen, I've been speaking to both veterans and ordinary people this week here in Copenhagen, is one of great anger, actually. And I think that gradually it feels like people are sort of making a stand, if you will. Whereas in the beginning, a lot of Danes felt that this was sort of strange being in the middle of a geopolitical crisis. Now it feels like many Danes, including the veterans, feel that you have to make a stand for what you believe in. And if you're Danish, you obviously believe in Denmark and the Danish kingdom.
And how can the U.S. Embassy, kind of right this perceived wrong? I mean, what we've been hearing is that inside the embassy, the official line is they didn't realize what the flags represented or why they had been put there. That seems far-fetched.
Yeah, but it's possible, but I think that comes on top of the insults towards Danish soldiers that President Donald Trump has come out with. And I think those two things put together, it doesn't make it look very good. And you ask me, what could they do to correct this? I suppose that they could come out with a different rhetoric towards the Danish veterans and towards Denmark altogether. But until they do, I think the feeling here is that the Danes will make a stand, and they will this weekend.
And the embassy is now allowing flags to be placed there. As you said, there are many more flags now than there were originally. But pictures speak 1,000 words, right? And it seems like there's 1,000 words right now that do not bode well for the relationship between the U.S. and Denmark.
Well, there's been talks going on in Washington between the Danes, the Greenlandics, and the U.S. administration this week. And they seem to be going well. But the feeling in Denmark altogether now is that, Denmark and Greenland belong together, and that Denmark has served U.S. as an ally for many years, including the Danish soldiers who served under U.S. command, and that these insults cannot go on. The U.S. cannot continue to put up posters of Donald Trump in Greenland or wanting to take over Greenland one way or the other. And I think the feeling is that the Danes will sort of stand together in this. Also today, the Danish King Frederick, was out with a strong support for his Greenlandic friends, as he put it. He has said that he's going to Greenland now, if you will, on a support tour. And I think the feeling in Denmark is one of, we are in this together. We will make a stand together. And this is what we're going to see this weekend in Denmark.
We know that the U.S. president last week, he walked back, I guess, fears that he would send in U.S. troops to take over the island of Greenland. He said he's not going to use force. But there have been talks, and he said that they have reached a framework agreement, but the details of that framework, they're very, very sketchy. I mean, we know very little. And I'm wondering, the fact that we know very little, the fact that Trump has not changed his position on Greenland, he still wants to be in control there, and now seeing what's happened with the flags, is there a sense in Denmark, Copenhagen, of maybe powerlessness, that they can't really do anything to stop Donald Trump?
I think that was very much the case for a long time. I think what has changed now is maybe that there's a feeling that Europe also stands with Denmark. Mette Frederiksen, the Danish PM, went to Berlin and to Paris this week and got strong support from both Macron and Merz. And I think the feeling is that maybe we can do something if we're in this together. And whereas for a long time, the Danes and the Greenlandic were very scared, actually, of what the Americans might do, I think the feeling is that we can make a difference and that we probably will try and do that. And I think that's what's clear with the message being sent from Copenhagen this weekend.
Journalist Jakob Illeborg joining us from Copenhagen tonight, and a story about the furor over the flags. Jakob, thank you.